I'm going to unpack the swirl tutorial. R programming. We'll be working through the sequence of numbers tutorial. Swirl has a number of tutorials, and within each tutorial there are a number of modules. Previous video I've gone through the basic building blocks. Now I'm going to be going through sequence of numbers. I'll be working through this tutorial module using RStudio, and in particular I'll be using a .rmd file, an R markdown file, so I can take notes on what I'm doing. An R markdown file is basically an R script file, but allows you to write more naturally like in a word processor. So I can include basic raw text that I don't have to comment out, and then in these handy R code chunks, I can include the necessary R code. If I want to run a code chunk, I can hit this handy button right here. So let me just click that. And what that's going to do is that's going to run the library command for me and the swirl command. I have already installed the package swirl, so I commented that part out. And then I hit that green triangle. It ran the library swirl command, ran the basic swirl code. I get a little warning message here. Doesn't mean anything. Perhaps I need to update my installation of swirl, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's probably not going to cause a problem. And then also because it was in the same code chunk, the swirl command was run. So now I'm starting in swirl. Always want to use the same name when you're working in swirl. I only have one tutorial downloaded, the basic R programming tutorial. One thing I don't like about swirl is that it tries to start you off exactly where you were last time. So the last video I recorded was about the sequence of numbers tutorial. So I want to start something new. So now it's going to take me back to my master list of tutorials. I wish it would take me just one step back up within the tutorial to the list of modules, but it's taking me back to my list of actual tutorials. I'm going to select the R tutorial. And then within that, I'm going to select the sequence of numbers module within. Now I'm ready to go. And this is all about sequences of numbers in R, better known as vectors when they're put together and stored in an object. This is all excellent stuff to know in R. Some of this stuff you won't have to use day to day when you're first getting started using R, but it's all excellent practice for learning how R thinks. So I'm going to unpack this awesome swirl lesson while I work through things. First, we start off using what's called the colon operator. I already have some of this typed in right here. So as swirl is telling me, if I type 1 to 20 and run that code, prints out the sequence of numbers, 1 to 20. You can put just about any number in. R has a pi already in it. And if I go pi to 20, it starts at 3.14 and it runs a sequence up to 19.14. What it's doing is it's going up as close to 20 as it can get, starting from 3.14. I can do any number I want. I can do pi 1 through 10. That's actually what it was trying to have me do. Of course, our swirl is very cheery and says I did a great job. So what happens if I do 15 to 1? Well, I count down from 15 to 1. Handy trick to know, not something you need to know day to day when you get started with R. It's reminding me here about the handy help function, easily accessed using the question mark. One thing to know is if you're trying to access help for a special operator like this, you need to enclose it in backticks. So if I want to get the help file for the colon operator, I have to enclose it in backticks like that, and it'll bring up, here is colon here, and the help file is right there. One thing about R is there's always more than one way, or almost more than one way, to do the exact same thing. Some people see this as a feature. Some people want to throw R and their computer out the window. So the colon operator allows you to make sequences of numbers, but so does the sequence function. So I can list the numbers 1 to 20 by going 1 colon 20, or I can do seek 1 to 20. The seek function is more powerful though than the basic colon operator because it has an argument called by. So each one of these things that I put inside of a function is called an argument. Sequence has 3, or it has a number of arguments, but right now I'm using 3, the starting point, the end point, and then this is the increment. So if I do seek 0, 10 by 5, it's going to go from 0 to 10, and it's going to do it by steps of 0.5. I could do 0.1, I could do anything I want. Another argument that the seek function has is it has a length argument. So instead of going, say, by increments of 5, I can say split up the span of 5 to 10 and split it up into 30 steps. Give me a vector of length 30. So I'm going to run this code. It says that's not, oh, I forgot. I even had the code written here. It wants me to create an object called mySeek, use the assignment operator to assign it. There we go. Now it's happy. So using all of these features of Seek, you'll see them out in the wild when you look at R code. Again, not something you'll have to do day to day when you get started with R. Something, however, that's always really important to do anytime you work in R and are making objects, the length command is something that's really important to use. Length tells you the length or size of a vector. So anytime you want to do something, creating a vector, creating an object that has things in it, it's always good to double check its size to make sure you ran the code correctly, make sure the object was created. R doesn't always tell you the information up front to know that a command was run correctly. So I can go length mySeek, tells me its length is 30 items. So now it's saying, let's pretend we don't know the length of mySeek, but we want to generate a sequence from 1 to n, where n represents the length of the mySeek vector. So it's asking me to do something there's a couple steps going on here, a little trickier R programming. This will give you some good insight into how R thinks, but this is not something I do every day. So it's asking me to do this, type in 1 length mySeek. So this is saying what it's going to do is it's going to evaluate this term. It's going to take the length of mySeek, which is 30, and then it's going to use the colon operator to generate a vector of numbers from 1 to the length of mySeek. So this is something you'll see often in programming that's generating things dynamically. If mySeek is being generated by a previous command and you don't know exactly, or it depends on conditions, how long mySeek is going to be, you'll see that type of code pop up. Here is another little command. I'll be honest, I have never used this option before. I'll run it, but never used that argument in the seek command. Here's another command. I've seen this command before, but I've never used it before. So seek along mySeek. This is all doing the same thing. So again, some say it's a feature of R, some say it's a liability. More than one way to do the exact same thing. The most common paradigm for doing this task would be 1 length mySeek. The other ways are less common. Swirl's just giving you some information. Be good to read through all of this. Kind of another take on some of the things I'm saying here. Saying now we're getting to a new function. One more function related to creating sequence of numbers is rep. Now, rep is a function that I use all of the time. This is definitely frequently used. It stands for replicate. It allows me to replicate a particular value or a particular object. So here they're saying rep 0 times equals 40. So I can go rep 0 times equals 40. So it has a rep, the rep function has an argument, take something and replicate it a certain number of times. So rep 0 times 40. So often this is used to create blank vectors for storing information that you're going to use later. So you'll often see rep NA, which just creates a vector of nothing, just NA undefined values. One thing about R is that it loves vectors. And we talk a lot about R in terms of vectorized code. And R, you can give it a vector and you can do actions on it. So for example, we can give rep. Rep doesn't just take 0 or NA. We can give rep here a vector. The C operator creates a vector. So I'm going to create a vector that contains 0, 1, 2, and then I can replicate that vector 10 times. So pause for a second and try to visualize what this is going to do, or what this might look like, or how long this final object is going to be. Ta-da! What I'm going to do is replicate this vector 10 times. So 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and so forth. That should be 30 characters long. Here's another variant on it. I don't think I've ever actually used this one before. What it's going to do is it's going to work in sequence. It's going to first replicate each value 10 times. Useful for R programming, but not something you need to know every day using R. These swirl tutorials, if we finished up this module, and swirl tutorials were designed to be linked to Coursera. We are not using that, so we'll just hit no. So now it's taken me back out to my list of tutorials. I can go back to R programming and see my list of 15 different modules. I can select the next one that I'm interested in.